Something within you is out of sync, and you feel it no matter how hard you try to concentrate, breathe deeply, or think positively. There's an invisible noise vibrating beneath the surface. It's as if the world around you is slightly out of sync, like music out of time. Everything seems to work, but without soul. You wake up, do what you need to do, but there's a distorted frequency that prevents you from feeling truly alive. The body continues, but the energy doesn't keep up. And what's most unsettling is that this misalignment is almost imperceptible, silent, persistent, like static that the brain has learned to ignore. But the quantum field doesn't ignore it. It responds to what you emit. And when the emission is cloudy, life begins to mirror this fog. Decisions stall, coincidences cease, synchronicities are reversed. The flow stops. There are times when you realize that something needs to change, and fast. It's almost instinctive, as if an older part of your being recognizes the signal, subtle urgency, not of fear, but of remembrance. Something inside you knows there's still time, but not much time left. Because the frequency you hold now shapes what will come in the next few hours. Not the next few weeks, not the next few months, the next 24 hours. Every misdirected thought, every rushed breath, every ignored emotion alters the field around you. It's as if the universe reconfigures its lines of possibility with each breath cycle. And every time you move into coherence, a new line opens. But every time you vibrate in chaos, it closes. Have you ever felt this happen? That day when everything seemed to conspire in your favor, doors opening, unlikely encounters, clear signs, and then, suddenly, without explanation, everything went dark. The energy dropped. The magnetism vanished. As if the universe had switched off its tuning for a few moments. What if this disconnection wasn't accidental, but a consequence? What if there was an invisible window through which the field responds at maximum speed, and that window was opening right now? Alignment is not optional. It's the only language the universe understands. And with every minute you spend out of sync with the right frequency, the field silently rewrites your tomorrow. There is a point of return. A reset. But he doesn't wait. It happens within a 24-hour cycle. The exact time in which your current vibration determines the type of reality you will inhabit. The question is, are you going to let that window close before you remember who is really sending the signal? Perhaps the most curious thing is that misalignment rarely begins with something big. It creeps in slowly, like a slight change in temperature that the body only notices when it's already shivering. A delay here, an irritation there, a constant distraction disguised as tiredness. Gradually, you stop noticing the synchronicity that once seemed natural, that invisible flow that made life fit together like perfect gears. Suddenly, coincidences cease. The right encounters are delayed. And the universe, which once seemed to respond, begins to fall silent. But the silence of the field is not a punishment, it's just a mirror. It reflects what you vibrate, not what you desire. And there's a moment, almost imperceptible, when everything inside you knows the frequency has dropped. The air feels denser, thought slower, and even the body reacts, as if something inside is asking you to stop. It's not just emotion. It's physics. It's the field. Imagine your inner self as a forgotten instrument. For a long time, it played in harmony with the whole, but the accumulation of haste, fear, and overload threw the strings out of tune. You still play the same music, but the sound has lost its purity. And with each attempt to compensate, with more effort, more control, more anxiety, the distortion increases. It's the paradox of someone seeking reconnection while trying to force their own return. Some people live their entire lives without noticing this noise, believing that chaos is normal. But there are also those who feel something different, a silent reminder that there is a finer, more real, more true state. An almost forgotten sense of coherence, as if the universe breathed together. And perhaps that is why so many people choose to remain here, following each revelation, not to hear something new, but to remember what they have always known. Because, at some point in their existence, everyone has been in complete harmony with the field. That moment when time seems to slow down, coincidences multiply, and life responds at the same speed you feel it. It's the moment when the universe not only hears you, it understands you. And perhaps the secret was never about asking for more, but about adjusting the sound. Because reality, before it is seen, is heard through the vibration you maintain. And every choice, every breath, every emotion is a note. The question is, do you still remember what melody the universe was playing when you were in perfect coherence? Sometimes, misalignment doesn't destroy violently, it erases little by little. You start losing small connections, and you don't even realize it. The intuition that once guided you with precision becomes a distant whisper. The signs that once seemed clear are beginning to blur into meaningless coincidences. And while you're trying to get back into the rhythm, something inside you feels like time is passing too quickly, as if your internal clock has sped up. The body tries to warn you: shortness of breath, unexplained fatigue, sleep that doesn't restore you. The mind insists on continuing, but the field no longer keeps up. It's like walking on a bridge that's vibrating at its limit, about to collapse under the weight of disconnection. And the more you try to control it, the more it wobbles. This is where many confuse strength with presence. They try to push the flow, demand results, assert power over what is no longer in sync. But the truth is that the field doesn't respond to force, it responds to frequency. And attendance doesn't come from effort, it comes from the state of being. Imagine a light trying to pass through murky water. The more the liquid is agitated, the more distorted it becomes. The same light, the same source, but the reflection changes. This is what your field looks like when you vibrate out of alignment. It's not reality that abandons you, it's the reflection that shatters. The most frightening thing is realizing that this process is almost invisible. You still go through your routines, talk to the same people, smile in the same photos, but something subtle has disappeared. That silent spark that made the world around seem alive. And when life loses that vibrancy, nothing external can bring back what was lost. Neither achievements, nor promises, nor distractions. There is a peculiar pain in this emptiness. It's not sadness, it's absence. Like a song interrupted mid-note. And within that silence, something inside you begins to call back, an ancient, forgotten part that still knows how to vibrate with clarity. This call is not gentle. It comes in the form of restlessness, long nights, and repetitive thoughts that won't go away. It's the field trying to bring you back before the cycle closes. Before the day ends and the frequency becomes fixed. Because, deep down, you feel, something needs to be adjusted now, not tomorrow. And this now seems to pulsate like an invisible reminder in the air, waiting for someone who dares to listen to the silence before it turns into an echo. But something curious happens when the silence stretches on. After the initial discomfort, after the resistance to facing one's own emptiness, a different kind of listening emerges. You begin to notice subtle noises, the sound of your own heart, the rhythm of your breathing, even the invisible weight of emotions that your body has held for so long. And, for the first time, perhaps, you realize that the disconnection was never total. She was just hoping you would settle down enough to meet her again. The field doesn't disappear, it just shrinks when you disperse. Like the sea that recedes before the wave, only to return with greater force. But to feel that return, you need to stop chasing external signs and allow the movement to begin from within. Because it's not the universe that needs to prove it's listening, it's up to you to remember how to speak his language. Sometimes, a mere moment of presence is enough to change the density of the air. The environment seems to reorganize itself, the colors gain a subtle glow, and even the sound of things becomes clearer. It's not a miracle, it's alignment. The frequency returns to playing in unison with the field, and everything that previously seemed random begins to make sense again. It is at this point that many feel the urge to support this journey, leaving a silent sign that the message has touched them. Perhaps because, deep down, each one recognizes the echo of that memory, the moment when something invisible moved, and life responded. What if what we call reality was merely the translation of the vibrations we are able to sustain? What if all along we weren't trying to change the world, but simply remember how to breathe at the same frequency as it? Perhaps alignment requires no effort at all. Perhaps it is an inevitable consequence of returning to presence, return that is not forced, it is allowed. There is a tenderness in this moment of reunion, an almost melancholic peace, like someone recognizing something old that has always been there. But along with this peace comes a silent warning: balance is alive, needs to be maintained, nurtured, and reminded. Because the countryside, however generous it may be, does not wait forever. And as you feel this harmony return, something deeper begins to stir, preparing the next step, the one in which the universe ceases to be a mirror and begins to be a partner. When alignment begins to return, it doesn't come with fireworks, it comes with silence. It's almost imperceptible at first, a slight internal shift, as if something inside you is finally breathing after being submerged for a long time. You can feel the air flowing differently. The chest expands with less effort, and there's a strange familiarity to it, as if the whole body remembers an ancient language that needs no translation. But soon after this reunion, a subtle fear arises, the fear of losing again. It's as if the internal system itself is testing its stability, silently asking, are you really ready to sustain what you've asked for? Because the field doesn't just respond to desire, it responds to consistency. And maintaining a consistent frequency is more challenging than achieving it. It is an ongoing act of gentle vigilance, not of control, but of care. Imagine a flame in the wind. She doesn't fight against the currents, she moves with them, flexible, yet intact. True alignment looks like this. It is neither spiritual rigidity nor forced serenity, it is a dance between surrender and presence. And in this dance, every emotion, even those that seem wrong, has a role. Anger reveals where there is contained energy. Sadness reveals what needs to be cleansed. Fear, paradoxically, points the way to growth. The field does not judge vibrations as good or bad, it simply translates what you say. And when you allow yourself to feel everything, without denying anything, the frequency purifies itself. It's as if every raw emotion transforms into light when acknowledged honestly. Nothing is lost, everything is reorganized. There is a moment, brief and precious, when you realize you no longer need to try to vibrate at a high frequency. The vibration simply happens. It becomes a consequence of the truth you hold within your body. And this truth has sound, it has rhythm, it has color. It changes the way people look at you, how space welcomes you, how time seems to bend around you. But along with this clarity comes the reminder that balance is dynamic. A slight distraction can push you away again, not as punishment, but because you forget. And it is at this point, between presence and forgetfulness, that the true challenge lies. Because when the field recognizes you, it also calls you deeper. And something inside you begins to understand, today's alignment is just the doorway. What comes next cannot yet be named, only felt. There is a subtle, almost invisible moment when alignment begins to test the depth of your commitment. It's no longer about breathing correctly or thinking beautifully. It's about what happens when life decides to see if you've truly learned to maintain calm amidst the chaos. The days go by as normal, but there's something different about the texture of time. The noises seem louder, the people more impatient, the distractions more seductive. The field begins to provoke you, to push old patterns to the surface, not to punish you, but to purify you. And suddenly, the same silence that once brought peace now begins to reveal what you still don't want to see. The emotions return. The fear of losing. The uncertainty about which path to take. The urge to abandon the process and return to comfortable distraction. But now there is a consciousness that observes all of this. Part of you already knows that chaos is just the mirror adjusting to the new light. It's strange how the universe teaches us. He doesn't send clear signals. He creates contrasts. Place light and shadow side by side, so that you can feel what truly resonates within. And in this mix, you begin to realize that even discomfort has a purpose. That every disorder, every disruption, is simply the field recalibrating the old frequencies. Imagine the sound of an instrument being tuned. First, it's noise. Notes out of tune, vibrations that seem dissonant. But, little by little, the strings find harmony. And what once sounded strange transforms into pure music. That's how realignment works. It needs to be out of tune before it sounds perfect. You start to notice this orchestration in everything, in encounters that test you. Regarding the delays that seem unfair. During the pauses the universe imposes when you want to run. And realize, nothing is against you, it's simply training you to vibrate in a more stable way. But this realization does not come without a cost. There comes a moment when the soul feels the weight of the process, as if the entire body were made of thin glass about to crack. Breathing becomes short, the heart heavy. Is the point of greatest vulnerability, and also the most powerful. Because it is there that the field listens most clearly. Taking a break at this point is not a sign of weakness, it's a sacred gesture, space between what was and what is still being formed. And it is there, in that almost motionless interval, that reality begins to bend again, waiting for the next pulse of your coherence to know which path to follow. And then, something begins to change, not outside, but inside. That stillness which once seemed like mere absence now transforms into a living presence. The details of the world become clearer. Conversations become slower, gestures more deliberate, words heavier, not from pain, but from intention. And you realize that every action, even the simplest one, carries a vibration that shapes the field around it. People react differently. Perspectives change. Certain situations that previously required effort now flow naturally, as if the universe has begun to cooperate in silence. But there is also the opposite. What is not in resonance begins to disintegrate. Relationships, habits, places, everything that vibrates outside your new frequency begins to drift away, sometimes abruptly. And that's the price of consistency. It illuminates what no longer fits, even when you're not yet ready to let go. Every choice now is an energy experiment. You notice the difference between acting in the presence of others and reacting to noise, between forcing and flowing, and realize that the universe doesn't respond to your haste, it responds to your clarity. The more aligned the internal state, The more accurate the external responses become, it's as if the field were an intelligent mirror, reflecting not what you wish for, but what it truly sustains. This realization changes everything. Time begins to seem malleable. Certain hours expand, others dissolve. You understand that synchronicities are not luck, but coherence in motion. These are subtle responses from the field testing whether you are paying attention. And each small sign becomes an invitation to remain conscious, as if the universe were saying, "Stay here. Don't go back to sleep." It is at this point that many feel the urge to share what they are feeling, to put into words what until recently seemed invisible. Perhaps that is the power of testimonies, not to prove, but to anchor. Because when someone describes what they experienced, they are, in fact, affirming to the environment, "I recognize what happened." And that recognition is magnetic. It expands the scope of the phenomenon, amplifying the collective field of coherence. So, when something inside you resonates, speak up. Even if in silence. Leave a sign, a word, a trace of your presence. These small expressions are like echoes that the universe collects and returns multiplied. And perhaps, at this very moment, as you read, you are already generating the next reflection, the beginning of a new frequency cycle that is still forming, invisibly, around you. There comes a moment when the energy seems to slow down, as if time itself stops to observe what you are becoming. The outward signs diminish, the immediate rewards cease, and the field silently begins to test the depth of your faith. It's easy to maintain consistency when the universe responds with synchronicities, when everything seems to align. But true realignment happens when nothing seems to work, and yet, something inside you refuses to fall back into the old frequency. It's like walking across an invisible bridge over the fog. Each step requires confidence. You don't see the ground, but you feel it forming beneath your feet the exact moment you decide to move forward. This is the point at which reality observes, more than ever, what you emit. She listens not to the words, but to the landscape. And this field speaks the language of your pauses, your silent intentions, the way you breathe when no one is watching. Sometimes, the silence that the universe returns is not an absence of response, it's a mirror, an accurate reflection of your own inner state. If there's noise inside, there's confusion outside. If there is presence, the world seems to reorganize itself, even without apparent effort. But this understanding doesn't come from a manual. It arises from lived observation, from the patience of those who accept mystery as part of the process. This is where many give up, thinking they've lost the signal. But it's the opposite. The field recedes just enough for you to learn to sustain what you've already accessed, without relying on external validation. Like a silent master, he wants to know if you still vibrate coherently when the echo takes a while to return, if you still have faith when there are no applause, when the sky is cloudy, when the outcome seems distant. And then something curious happens. The resistance begins to dissolve. You realize that control doesn't bring security, it brings noise. And that surrender, despite the fear, is the only gesture that the universe understands as genuine trust. That moment, something subtle moves around. Small coincidences reappear, doors open naturally, and people who seemed distant return with new intentions. But none of this comes as a reward, it comes as a consequence. Each fragment of reality begins to mirror your new rhythm. The same situations take on different outcomes, the same conversations take on a different tone. And you understand, almost without realizing it, that the quantum reset wasn't something that happened, it was something you became. But there is something deeper, a layer that the field has not yet revealed. Something is about to emerge, waiting only for the next beat of your heart to manifest itself. There comes a moment when reality starts staring back at you. Not as an enemy or a test, but as a conscious mirror. Everything that vibrates within you, fear, confidence, doubt, love, is projected outward in details so subtle they seem like coincidence. But nothing happens by chance. Every word you speak, every gesture, every breath sends an invisible signature to the field, and the field responds, with almost cruel precision, reflecting the exact state you silently endure. It is at this point that many realize that aligning one's frequency is not just about feeling peace, but about sustaining presence even when the mind asks to escape. The universe does not bend to desire, it responds to consistency. And this consistency is forged on neutral days, in moments when nothing seems special. When the urge to give up seems easier than continuing to breathe at a steady pace. But the secret lies there. The reset doesn't happen at the climax of light, but rather in the silent discipline of shadow. Imagine the sunrise seen from a deep valley. The light hasn't touched the ground yet, but the air already announces that something is coming. This is the state of realignment, the threshold between what was and what is beginning to take shape. And those who manage to remain in that space, without forcing the sunrise, discover that patience is the most underestimated force in the universe. Doubt still tries to creep in, whispering old questions with a new voice. Am I really changing? Does it make a difference? But every time you return to your center, every time you choose to breathe instead of reacting, something imperceptible recalibrates itself inside and outside of you. It's as if the world is watching you adjust its own axis, and, out of respect, reorganizes itself around you. This awareness transforms even mistakes into part of the dance. A thought that is out of sync ceases to be a threat and becomes merely a note out of time, which can be adjusted with the next breath. You begin to understand that consistency isn't perfection, it's a return. Return to the center as many times as necessary until the return becomes natural. And the more you return, the more the field recognizes your signature. The answers come faster, the signals become clearer, the resistances are milder. But the paradox is this: the more you understand, the less there is to control. And it is in this detachment that the frequency finally stabilizes, not because you have mastered the universe, but because you have stopped trying to force it. The air becomes lighter, thoughts clearer, the body quieter. But beneath this apparent serenity, there is a pulsating, vibrant energy, waiting for something greater, as if the entire field were breathing along with you, preparing to reveal what has always been there, lurking in the next breath. And then, something expands. Not outside, but inside. The frequency that once seemed like effort now pulses on its own, as if the entire body were breathing in unison with the universe. There is no more searching, no more waiting, there is presence. And in that presence, the world seems different, but you understand. What has changed is the observer. The mind that once raced now listens. The heart that once feared now translates the silence into direction. Everything falls into place, not because it became easy, but because you learned to dance with the flow. The circumstances persist, the challenges continue to arise, but now you don't react, you respond. And this difference, subtle yet powerful, changes destiny. Reality begins to bend not to your will, but to your consistency. You become the axis around which things realign. Chaos ceases to be the enemy and becomes raw material. With each breath, you realize that the universe was never against you. It was simply waiting for you to tune in to its language. The harmony is silent, yet unmistakable. The signs become clearer, unlikely encounters, words heard at the right time, feelings that foreshadow what is to come. Everything begins to respond as if reality itself were alive, aware of its own vibration. And in that instant, you understand that controlling frequency isn't about manipulating the world, it's about harmonizing with it. When the inner self is aligned, the outer self merely reflects it. But there is something even deeper, memory. You're not learning anything new, you're just remembering what you've always known. The quantum field is not an invention, it is the native language of the soul, the same language that air translates when you breathe in presence. And this memory brings such a real serenity that even fear bows before it. There is no urgency, only rhythm. There is no shortage, only frequency. You realize that you don't need to chase after what already vibrates within you. And this is where everything closes and opens at the same time. The 24-hour cycle is not merely symbolic, it mirrors the natural regeneration of life. With each sunrise, the frequency is renewed. With each breath, the field adjusts. You understand that quantum reset is not an isolated event, but a state of continuous return, reminder that there's always time to align, as long as there's intention. Therefore, if something within you has stirred, if this journey has awakened even the smallest echo, honor it. Leave a word, a thought, a gesture. Not as an external ritual, but as a silent confirmation that you remembered. Because every time someone awakens to that frequency, the entire field changes, and the universe responds, once again, instantly. Now, take a deep breath. Feel it, you're not just hearing about the reset. You are the reset.